My top 5 free lists to find motivated sellers. Guys, it's Rick Ginn here, and today we are talking about the absolute free list that you can use. That's right, you don't even have to pay for this, and find motivated sellers so you can fill your wholesaling pipeline. But before we get into it, I need you to do me a favor. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button to continue to receive tips just like this on how you could be a successful wholesaler, even if you haven't done a deal before, you've done your first 100. So let's talk about the list. I'm going to jump like right into it and start out with one of my fan favorite deals to do. Something I've been doing. I'm going on almost 21 years doing it. And it doesn't matter if it's a virtual market or a local market, guys, code violations, honestly, they are probably one of the greatest sources to find and locate motivated sellers. Because keep in mind, a code violation is simply when a house violates the terms of what a city or a county deems acceptable. And these properties get reported by the neighbors, or sometimes code violation officers drive around. And I'm particularly looking for the one with overgrown grass, blue tarps on the roof, tons of mold on them, boarded up windows and doors, and they code each one of these properties. And those are the ones that I'm targeting because typically where there's smoke, there's fire. If people aren't mowing their lawn, if they're not taking down the boards on the windows, it typically means the property is beat up and it's vacated, or someone's not making payments on the mortgage or the taxes or anything like that. And for that reason alone, that's why they are really good deals to go after. And the city does a lot of the work for you. So it's city or county, it doesn't matter. When they're on this list, they have a much higher probability of getting a great wholesale deal from the code violations list. Guys, do not overlook this list. I love them. I will never stop doing them. And I have nothing to sell you with this. Like, there's no complicated software to sell you with this. And for this reason, this is why I do videos like this. So many people have come reliable on technology, and guys, I love technology, but honestly, code violations, you're not going to find in some sort of technology software. We're trying to get so technical and trying to find deals where you're better off taking practical advice from someone that's been doing this 20 years plus. And you don't need software to do everything. Don't get me wrong, it has its place, but the list I'm going to share with you today has nothing to do with software, high-tech companies, or slick salesmen trying to sell you a very expensive subscription. Guys, go down to your building department in your local city or county, find the code violations department, and here's the key to getting them. You are going to get resistance because people abuse this. People sell these lists. Realtors hit them now. Mortgage brokers hit them. Marketers that try to sell stuff on the internet. And for that reasons, their higher ups tell them, listen, do not give these lists away unless they go through major qualifications. So if you can overcome 2 objections, you have a high probability of getting a positive outcome regardless of what you're trying to get from someone. My little message to this is to beat resistance. You overcome it with persistence. Be persistent, be nice, but understanding this is public information. One way or the other, you need to get it. If hey, you got to meet with the city attorney, go, great. What's the best time to meet with him or her? Most people run when they hear an attorney. You're not. You're going to go the opposite way. Guys, persistence beats resistance. Code violations are a lifeline to finding motivated sellers because remember, they're going to point you in the right direction. And for that reason, it's one of my favorites. So my next favorite list is right along the county lines, and it's the tax delinquency list. And this list has been around forever, and it's just exactly what it says. This list is exactly what it says. It's anyone who is behind on paying their current real estate taxes. And after the due date comes, which is usually by the end of the year, they get about a 4 or 5 month lag period. And after that, the county will issue what they call a tax certificate. And this allows private investors to go ahead and fund and pay for that person's taxes. In return, they get a certificate and they get an interest rate, which they actually bid down. And guys, I don't want you buying tax certificates. Actually, that's not real estate investing at all. But once they're on this list, where there's smoke, there's fire. So if someone's not paying their real estate taxes, it's a good indication that they could use the services of a wholesaler to help them with their situation. Because remember, if eventually these taxes don't get paid, the house gets foreclosed on. And nobody wants their house foreclosed on, so the motivation can be there. The downside with tax delinquency is most people in tax delinquency situation, They procrastinate everything. So they're much harder to get a hold of. For that reason, do not mail to people in tax delinquency because it doesn't work. I find cold calling, SMS, and a little bit of door knocking will get you much further. And for that reason, I don't mail. Once again, you'll have to be extremely persistent with these people because you watch when you get a hold of their phone, you're cold calling, you skip trace it. Don't be surprised if their voicemail box is full. And guys, I've got some of my best deals off tax delinquency. And here's the real cool part. You only got to pull this list once a year. So it's not hard to get. I advise you just go down to the county and get it yourself. Remember, you're going to get some resistance. You guys know how to overcome it with persistence. These lists are golden. I would never, ever operate a wholesaling business without attacking this list because we always get people off of it. The ones I avoid are the houses way above your median price range because a lot of wealthy people will use their real estate taxes as a financing option and you're wasting your time marketing those people. So stick to the median average price or less and you should do just fine. So moving on to the next department while we're there, it's going to go down to the county courthouse and you're going to get the list of the foreclosures. They're in every county. And this is simply an act when the bank, when somebody stops making their payments on their loans and the bank threatens legal action. And this is the part where they actually enforce legal action. The precursor to foreclosure is pre-foreclosure. And sometimes those are paid lists or you got to get credit profile lists. But a foreclosure is a public document. It's free to everyone and you have the right to get this information. It's organized at your county courthouse. And by getting this list, the key here is catching them the minute they go on that list because the sweet spot is usually in the first 100 days once this action's filed because after a certain amount of time, the procrastination gets crazy and you don't want to be catching them at the end when it's going to the auction because there's not much you can do. So what I want to do is get this list and then once again, you can cold call them. You can warm call them. You can do sticky notes on the door. You can knock on the door, like whatever's going to get you to connect with them, build some rapport with them, and see if you can help them out. Odds are if they're not paying their mortgage, they understand what the repercussions on it. Eventually, the property is going to sell, so they might as well get the most equity they can get, and you are here to help them out. I love foreclosures. Like sometimes they get big, sometimes they get less. I believe there's going to be a lot more upcoming. And you shouldn't overlook this because it is a free list. And obviously the motivation is definitely going to be high on that. So moving on to number 4, water shutoffs. And this is simply a list from your utility department. When somebody gets the water cut off, they go on a special list. Keep in mind, when you get the water shut off, there's not much you can do in a house. You can't take a shower. You can't cook food. You can't wash clothes. It's a strong indication that there's big problems and the house is either going to be sold, it's vacant, or it needs to be sold. And that's why these lists are valuable. The sooner you catch them, the better. The challenge is getting these lists. You usually have to get it from a public utility company. If it's private, you're going to have a heck of a time getting the list. But once you get that list, once again, you got to kill them with kindness. And to overcome resistance, you've got to stick with persistence. And this is a little bit more of a challenging list, but if you can get it in your market or your virtual market that you guys are servicing, it's absolutely golden because once again, where there's smoke, there's fire. This is a great direction for you to look in. That's why I love it. Number 5 coming in is probates. So I love probates. Once again, you're going to go down to your county courthouse, ask for your probate division. You want to get a list of all current probates within the last 30 days. Once again, you are going to get a lot of misdirection here. It's done by design because so many people abuse this between marketers, realtors, and people like you and me, wholesalers. So I find if you go in with a kind heart, ask very nice, and let them know that you're a taxpayer and you just want to get access to information so you can learn more about these properties, you'll do a lot better. A lot of times they'll ask you, hey, Rick, what particular case you looking at? I go, I'm looking at everything within this county and I need to get a master docket of all that information. So you will get some resistance on this because it's getting a lot more traffic. But remember, the more resistance you get, the better chance you have at getting a deal because most people give up. The secret to probates is most people completely give up on probates after 30 days. They're not expensive. They're just exhausting to pull the information on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. But I will tell you this, probates have the highest profit margin because they're typically vacant homes. The motivation is really high and there's a lot of deferred maintenance because the home is not the priority in the final stages of someone's life. And that makes sense to me. That's why I like doing probates. You gotta use your 2 ears in probates a lot more than your mouth and hear people's problems and take the time to help them out. Remember, everybody has a different pace that they grieve at, and you are not there to dictate it. If you can help out someone with probate on a property that's not going to traditionally sell with a realtor, you are a great fit. So you've stuck out to the end of the video. Let me give you my 2 bonus lists that work really, really well today. So while you're at the courthouse and you're pulling up the county, you're doing tax delinquencies, you're doing foreclosures, you're doing probates, I want you to ask for a little list called evictions. And this is simply a court docket of any landlord who has to evict his or her tenants. That's right. This stuff is gold. The key with this is catch it the day the thing's filed. Okay. If you can catch that list and keep up on this list, a lot of these properties, the tenants already moved out. A lot of times the properties are trashed. This is the most vulnerable time that a landlord is going to sell that property. That's when the decision's made. Once he or she cleans it up or puts an ad out or puts another renter in there, you have 0 shot at getting it. So the key is at catching them early. And a lot of times I've caught these landlords and they're really frustrated. They're very upset with the tenants. And they're like, why would you even want to buy a property like this? You guys know how we answer that. We're wholesalers. We're here to fix problems. And that's what we do. Guys, go get that eviction list. It's really simple. And one of the cool little tips, I'll give it to you. Like in Florida, they actually put the landlord. So a lot of landlords file these documents themselves, which is beyond me. But they'll put their personal cell number on the sheet, on the complaint sheet. And you don't even have to skip trace them. So it's not doesn't work for every county, but for a lot of counties, it works out really well. I know the state of Michigan, that happens as well. And you guys can share what other states share this information. So in Florida, like they're really easy to do. Not everyone's a home run, but usually we get good deals. They're mostly beat up properties and they are perfect for wholesaling, guys. I love these lists and they work really well. The last and final list that is probably the most often looked one and is 100% free are your fire damaged properties. Like, hey, Rick, how do I get that list? Now, it's either going to be kept at your city or your county level. It's going to be run by your local fire department and there's a master list. By law, they have to keep that on record of all the fire, because usually there's a fire truck involved to put it on and it goes on a list. Now, you're going to get some resistance on it. You just have to figure out the logistics and how your department works in your area. And once you get that list, most people are horrified of fire burnt properties. I'm telling you, it's no different than any other rehab. You just have to go through different types of inspections and certifications. Remember, you're not fixing up these properties. You're selling it to an investor that's going to go through it, and they usually specialize in fire burned properties. And what better way than to get it from someone like you and me and a wholesaler? Guys, these lists are golden. Most wholesalers are scared to death of them. I'm here to tell you they're deep discounts and they're not that hard to sell. You just got to find someone who likes to buy fire damaged properties. And there's a lot of buyers out there. You'd be shocked. And here's the really cool part. They're all cash buyers. So I've shared with you 5 techniques. I gave you 2 extra ones. I'm here to tell you, I think so many times we're in an era where like you think you got to pay for these super techno software companies to find like all these deals for you. I'm here to tell you, all this technology in the world is doing the same thing I just explained on these 7 lists. They're just doing it for you. And honestly, a lot of times you're getting dated information. Don't get me wrong. ListREI.com. It's great for doing vacant properties, high equity, lien, utility liens and stuff like that. It's great. It's a service you pay for and it's cost effective. It's great. But I would use these lists first because number 1, they're free. And number 2, so many people are lost in the software age of wholesaling and they're missing the opportunity. Whoever goes to the courthouse first, if you have that ability or you can pull it online, you will beat every one of these techno companies because they're always 30 days behind. That's just my experience. I've seen on probates, evictions, foreclosures, the whole 9 yards. Guys, if you want to get up and ahead of all the other wholesalers and avoid paying some of these ridiculous techno fees of high price list services, go out and get these lists directly from your county. Be the first one to get them. And the really cool part, it's free And that gets you well on your way to getting a motivated seller so you can load up your wholesaling pipeline. Guys, let me know in the comments any of the lists that I've missed in there for free. Once again, I'm using the list. I'm using today's market. I run a 7-figure wholesaling operation, and I couldn't survive without using these lists. But guys, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button to continue to receive the best information on how to get the best wholesale deals. Guys, this is Rick Ginn, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.